We are? Okay.
There we are.
All right. Welcome, everybody. This is TiffinMusic Tuesdays. My name is Brad Reese. I am the Director of Arts Programs at Tiffin University. This is week number 7. We've been doing a weekly Tuesday night session all along on commercial music and music industry things. And we will get some feedback there. No, I'm not sure who needs to be muted. And tonight we're really lucky because 2 of the youngest members of our faculty.
Mute me because I have to charge my phone. I am muted, but it's still.
Okay, I got her. Priska, who has been our guest artist before, unfortunately she will not be performing tonight at the stream, but there she is. We are in the middle of running our annual songwriting and music production camp. This year we are all virtual for the first time ever, which is kind of exciting. And presenting for us tonight, as I started to say, are the 2 youngest members of our Tiffin Music faculty family, and they have self-nominated themselves as to the award of 30 under 30, and I second that nomination, and I am super happy to hand this over to 2 instructors, our instructor of beat making, Sir Eric Brown, Esquire, and our instructor of songwriting, Ms. Alex Manfredo, Professor Alex Manfredo. So give it up for the 2 of those. And guys, and I'm going to shut my camera off for now, and thank you. Goodbye.
Hi, can everybody hear me? And can everyone hear Eric? Are we all?
Yes,
good?
remain silent if you can hear me.
We sound great.
Great.
Oh, I've got Priska forced muted. I suppose I better turn her back on. This is a lot of fun. There you go.
So,
okay, bye.
So, like Brad said, my name is Alex, and this is Eric, and we're going to talk more about production. Normally for this camp, I've been a part of it for the past couple of years, but because of this whole situation, you know, we're kind of being we're in and out for this camp, so it's good to like see everybody virtually, and we're going to kind of talk about production, which can mean 40,000 different things, right? The role of a producer can be anything from like hiring the musicians for your session, or you know, having a hand musically in the production, or handling the budget for the production, or like 1,000 different things, right? So we're going to really talk about it kind of from our own perspectives, because I'm really more of like a singer-songwriter. I play piano, I sing, I play a little bit of ukulele. I've been writing for a number of years, and I got started with songwriting when I was in school. And it took a teacher to convince me to go and write. So I'm kind of happy to be here. So I'll talk about it from that perspective and how I kind of develop my songs. And Eric's going to talk a little bit later about how he develops everything, and he'll go into his own background and everything from beat making and the thousands of instruments that he can play. And so, okay, so yeah.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Okay. So as a writer, for me personally, writing a song and then producing a song are 2 different things. You know, sometimes I'm writing songs for a specific project. Sometimes I'm writing songs just to be, just to keep up with the practice and things like that. But not every song is necessarily meant for a specific production. Like if you want to write an album, let's say, you know, you're not going to write 10 songs and then say, yeah, that's the album. You're probably going to write like 50 or 100 songs before you decide, okay, this is my best work and this is what I have. And I find that obviously the more you write, the better you're going to be at that. So advice number 1, be writing all the time.
It's like any instrument. Like, yeah, you get better the more you do it.
Absolutely. For me, something that's just as important as writing is listening, which I didn't really get until I was older. I know that I'm speaking like I'm old when I'm not really that old, but I think listening is so important to what you're doing. If you're going for a specific thing or you're influenced by a specific artist, find 10 other artists like that artist and dissect everything that they do. For me, I love finding music that feeds me. Like, I love to find music that is interesting lyrically and musically, and, you know, finding music that feeds you, finding music that will keep you um, entertained and engaged is really important. So, um,
Hmm.
listening to music in your car and jamming out with your friends is great, but that's not necessarily like critically listening to the music that you want to create. I have a friend who's a writer in Chicago, and they told me that for a period of time, every day they would listen to one album and they would write one song inspired by that album, musically, lyrically, whatever that they could do. And that to me is one, dedication, because that's a lot of time to be dedicating towards that. But I think that's such great practice, especially if you're trying to find like, what is my specific sound and what am I going for? And like, what's my, for lack of a better word, what's my vibe? So I think that's super helpful, especially if you're trying to write like a specific project. That's been really cool for me. Do you have anything to add, Eric?
I consider listening to music almost like a diet or your diet. Like what you consume, what you listen to, is also going to come out in whatever you make or whatever you want to make. You know, if you're listening to um, like I mean, you can't necessarily say that like certain types of music are trash or like terrible, but there are some that are just, like very poppy, very formulaic, not necessarily well done. I'd consider them almost like the musical equivalent of like McDonald's. And if you listen to the McDonald's music over and over and over, all you're going to get is that kind of stuff versus, yeah, if you just feed yourself with literally every type of music from pop to country to trap to Mongolian throat singing to, like literally everything, you're going to, you got to widen your music vocabulary. That's really what it all comes down to. And by feeding your brain all that stuff, eventually your brain kind of churns it out. You may not consciously think it, but by listening to all that stuff, it eventually kind of gets sucked in there and it comes out through your music. So it is very important to just listen to music constantly or to dissect, like Alex just said.
And I think there's something to be said about what you said. I feel like it's very easy for us to be like, I really like this music and I hate this music, which that's fine if you have a preference for specific music, but I think that there's value in this art that we are choosing to create and choosing to listen to. So just because it might be a genre or a style that like you don't really identify with doesn't mean that it doesn't have value, and doesn't mean that you can't learn something from that. When you listen to that music, you can say, oh, okay, it's these things musically or lyrically or whatever it may be that I don't necessarily want in my own stuff. But now you can differentiate the two, which I think is really important.
Very much so. Very much so.
Keep going.
Um, no, but, do you want to check out the song yet?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Let's do that. Do you have it pulled up?
Yeah. But I do.
Okay. So, last thing I kind of want to touch on with production, and then we're gonna like listen to some of our own stuff, which I think is cool, is because I know some of you guys, I'm trying to remember who said this. Someone was like, I sing and I play the guitar, and I usually do acoustic stuff, and I really want to figure out how to add to that or like build on these productions. I don't remember who you are. Sorry. I'll figure it out later. Um, a book that I really like that kind of helped introduce this idea of production from like an engineering standpoint for me. It's called The Art of Mixing. It's by David Gibson. It's real old. It's not really that old, but it talks about production um, as this like cube, I guess you should say. Like you have this box, right, that you can fill with whatever you need to, right? And things will sit sonically. We were talking about this a little bit in Priska's group yesterday, if y'all remember. Um, like we were talking about piano and guitar interfering, and like you don't want the guitar, like if it's a lead guitar or a specific guitar, you don't want that to interfere with this other instrument. It's the same idea, just visualizing it, which when I first started getting into engineering and mixing and understanding how all of these instruments sonically will sit, visualizing that is huge. And imagining if you have this box, what can you put in this box to sonically fill the space that you need? Do you need every instrument in the world? Maybe. Who knows what this production is? Do you need two? Do you need three? If I put a guitar here and it's functioning the same as this piano, is that going to get in the way? Do I need drums? Do I need bass? What kind of drums do I need? What kind of guitar? So that book for me helped me visualize where I'm going to place these instruments. And it's so, so helpful when determining as I'm producing this music, what do I need? What sonically will fit? And how do I decide and make these choices? So we're going to play a song called Tricks on Me. So I'm in the process of writing and developing an album, which I'm really excited about. And we're just finishing up some of the mixing. This is a song called Tricks on Me. So I wrote it as this kind of idea. Some of the lyrics kind of overlap where like the endings are also the beginning of certain sentences. And I wanted this idea of like your mind playing tricks on you. Like you just got out of this relationship and you see this person everywhere, but you don't really know if it's that person or if it's maybe someone else that has like the same hairstyle, or you think that they're outside the door or whatever it may be. You're imagining these things and your mind's playing tricks on you. And the whole point of this is it's kind of this weird joke that your brain is playing on you. And at the end, really, it has a question that whoever the vocalist is asking. And I think it's one of my favorites that I've written in terms of like how lyrically I write. So I decided to develop that. And like when I decide production elements of this, I make sure like, if it's going to be really busy with the piano, I want it to match what's going on in my mind lyrically. And if the piano is busy, maybe the guitar or maybe the drums or the bass part isn't as busy. So always trying to find a balance with these other instruments. This one is pretty easy. It's got some backgrounds and piano, guitar.
I was gonna say, so what old we got?
Drums.
Bass guitar, lead vocals. Then you added your hot drum beat.
Oh yes, you can add.
Piano.
I'm not a beat maker, and that's something that like not very proud of, but I'm not a beat maker. That's just something that I'm trying to get into. And I first started writing these beats and writing these percussion ideas just with like my table and like a microphone, like a 58, which is not a big deal. And I just held this microphone to the table, and like for the kick, I would just hit it with my fist, or for a shaker, I would use my hand to like create that sound on a table just to get some sort of foundation. You can make a beat and you can make all of these ideas with crap that you have around your house. It's so easy.
Oh yeah.
And you can try these ideas, and if it works, that's great. If it doesn't, then you tried something.
Yeah, then you delete it, move on. All right, so you want to listen to the whole song? Sure. All right.
In the watermarks on your favorite chair, and in the clothes everywhere you took me through the park after hours chilly air. So it goes now, you're not there. So it goes now, you're not there. One day I know playing tricks on me. Tricks on me. One day I know my mind will let go, stop playing tricks on me. And I won't have to see your face in all the strangers I meet. I won't have to hear your name in all the words people speak. One day I know I'll laugh and let it go. 'Cause the biggest joke was always me. Me. My mind is playing tricks on me. 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 Back last Saturday, saw your shadow at a party. He had your hair, I had to leave your stuff outside my door. On my heart it seemed to wear. But so it goes, were you even there? Were you even there? One day I know my mind will let go, stop playing tricks on me. Tricks on me. One day I know my mind will let go, stop playing tricks on me. And I won't have to see your face in all the strangers I meet. I won't have to hear your name in all the words people speak. One day I know I'll laugh and let it go. 'Cause the biggest joke was always me. Me. My mind is playing tricks on me. Me. My mind was playing tricks on me. My mind was playing tricks on me. I have one question, so before you leave, did you ever even love me?
Woo! So that was the whole song. So what all do we have here? We have bass, we have electric guitar. All right. So when you were writing this, did you write this with these specific harmonies in mind, or did they just kind of happen when you were recording?
Is that a question from you or somebody?
For you.
Oh, okay. No, I meant
That's
you
from
asking me the
Eric.
question.
I have
Yeah,
Oh,
I am screening questions from the YouTube
Oh,
crowd. We've got
Yeah.
gotcha.
20 people watching though, so please
Oh,
ask questions
cool.
up there.
Yeah.
Well, I'll answer a couple questions while Eric pulls up his tune because it's your turn.
Oh, I thought you wanted to
Yeah.
talk about it a little bit.
I can talk about it while you're pulling up your session.
Okay.
So did I write with these specific harmonies in mind? Usually, as I'm writing, most of the time I'm trying to use some music theory and trying to use some knowledge to create the harmonies that I have. They have like so many apps and so many things out there now that will help you create harmonies. I just bought this cool little harmonizer not too long ago. But that like programs in specific harmonies that are pretty easy to kind of figure out. With this one, I knew certain sections of where I wanted the harmonies to be. Sometimes I'm just putting harmonies over the entire chorus and then picking it out, but that one I was like, let's just put a third above and a fifth below, and we'll add a couple other things, and we'll just
Just
Go
call it a
for
day.
it. Yeah.
Okay, so it was just wherever felt natural. You just threw in some harmonies.
Yeah,
So,
usually I have certain ideas and certain things in mind. Usually in my chorus, I like to double the lead vocal just to kind of beef it up a little bit when I'm adding those other harmonies. But um, other than that, sometimes like for a more like pop oriented song like this is, I usually try to keep it simple and not do a ton of harmonies, which we'll listen to a song later with a lot of those.
oh God, yeah,
Eric,
lots
what
and
are you going
lots
to
of
show
harmonies.
us?
Actually,
I
let me jump in here real quick.
yeah,
Yeah.
Let's take one question from
yes.
YouTube. Actually, you
Mhm.
answered the questions almost from Sarah Giles, which what was your layering process? We're going to say that
Ooh,
that one was answered.
yeah.
Thank you for being here, Sarah. And although she followed it up with, is it one voice per part or doubled lines for harmony parts? You might be able to answer that
Mm.
one real quick.
It is not doubled in this portion, but there are other songs that I will double and then I'll pan them, but I never try to duplicate them because then it sounds too like electronic to me. Like it doesn't sound like real voices, not electronic as electronic's cool. But I try to like balance them out and like I'll have a vocal center, I'll have another lead vocal that's like just slightly off center, and then I'll do like higher harmonies and then lower harmonies will like balance that out.
Cool. One other question here
Yeah.
from Olivia Califato. Question is,
Yeah.
what steps do you take when you know a song is missing something, but you're not sure what it is?
I try to again visualize like where it's at. If I
Mm.
have something in this mid range, like all these vocals and guitar and piano, and maybe I have bass and maybe I have drums, then I try to think like, oh, what don't I necessarily have that could complete this? Like where in this box do I have space? Could I add like a lead guitar part that's really high that kind of like floats above it? Could I add like a random string part? Maybe I just need like a really really high vocal up there.
Like yeah, you
You know,
when
like
she's oh continue.
oh sorry. It just kind of depends on it. When I try to visualize it, I try to see what space might be missing and just not being afraid of trying something. Like maybe it's a weird organ part and you don't know what it could be. You really don't know what any of this is going to be until the end. Like you cannot judge it for what it is. Like I say that in songwriting all the time. You cannot judge the production for what it is. It's really just about trying all that you can and experimenting, going back and doing some listening and seeing like what makes this recording that I love so much complete. Oh, they do have a random string part. I'm gonna call Fitzy and say, hey, can you play some violin, bro? And then he's gonna be like, yeah.
Um,
So I hope that helps, Olivia.
One thing that I always will do, I do a lot of my music based off of like I hear a song and then by listening to other music, it inspires me to make my own music. So a lot of times I will make my own song, and if I know that there's something lacking in there, I'll listen to a song that I think is similar in style or just has similar elements, and then I'll pick apart and say, okay, what does this song have that mine doesn't, or what elements of that song can I put in mine that will fill it out more? So it's like, oh, I have guitar, bass, drums, and vocals in my song, but this other one has some kind of synth in the background, and it just really just kind of glues everything together. Well, let me put in some kind of synth of my own to kind of, in a different way, not just straight up copying, but just kind of borrowing the elements. And like she pointed out earlier, every sonically, if you think of it as like a painting or something, you have your bass, your mids, and your highs. Something always has to be filling up that space. You're always going to have something in those areas. You're always going to have your highs, whether it's hi-hats, maybe the crisp part of a snare or a cymbal crash or something. Then your mids will be like vocals, guitar, piano. Your bass will be bass, piano, drum, like kick drums. Like you always have to think of it as those three things, almost like a piano keyboard. So if you're thinking like something is off, like I just need to fill this song, but I don't know what it needs. It just needs something. The best thing you can do is go, okay, well, I've got something in my highs and then got something in my mid, like an 808 bass, or I can throw just a, bass guitar or something like that. But pretty much touching on what she was already pointed out, but that's normally how I figure out whether like what it needs is either by listening to another song or just kind of picking it apart in that way.
All right.
So-
Before we move on to the next song, I just wanted to, since you can't hear the applause, we talked about this last night when Priska performed, and she couldn't hear people's applause. She was cool that she could hear people applaud for the first time online. Since you couldn't hear the applause, some of the lovely comments include Ruby Santiago says, beautiful. Adam Lemke goes, woo. Tristan Johnson says, my heart. And Peter Fox says, be right back, gonna go cry. Peyton saying, I. And Michael Lambden said a number of things, including amazing and can't wait for the Grammys.
LOL.
All right, Eric Brown.
Okay.
You ready?
All right, so let me stream my thing again. So this is my song. It is a stupid song, but so this is, I wanted to make a disco song. So this is my disco song I made with my brother. I don't think I'll play the whole thing because let me see, it is, I might play the whole thing.
You've got time, and it's super good. Please play it.
Okay, hold on.
And show the album art too.
Yes. I'm still mixing it, so be very gentle because I'm still in the mixing process of it.
I pulled it to the club in the Subaru. Yeah, that's right. The Subaru. Mattress in the back of the wagon. Go what you wanna do. Sundress fresh, multicolored like a Rubik's Cube. Go running whiskey in my cup. Come on, let's do the do. Or if you want, we can do shots of Patron. Put my number in your phone so you can follow me home. Watch the newest Game of Thrones. Put some Harry Potter on, and no matter what we do, just make me go home alone. To the half-black prince, I put you up on things, make you kill the strange ballet tricks. We can hit the floor, let's dance. I'll break you off while I break your knees, New Balance kicks. Or maybe we can head to the car. I've had enough of the bar. I serenade you, I play the guitar. Young and light skin, how could you miss me? I know, I look like Lionel Richie. Hold tight, cause we dancing on the ceiling. What a feeling, now you're cheesing, I'm the reason, so let's get to leaving. Hands squeezing, heart beating, heart breathing. You can't go home alone, I'm hunting, and it's wiping season. You know I'm teasing, and if your funds are kinda low, just $7 in my pocket, you and me can go and blow. What you mean you gotta go? Your Uber's here to drive you home and share a ride, you and I. Style in the way they all sweat us. I'm talking to this girl that's making her friends jealous. Fellas all fed up cause the game don't let up, and there ain't no telling how this thing gon' end up. And look, she fine and all that, but I never seen a cutie with a mind like that. Damn, girl do that there. The mother brothers too intimidated, they all scared, but not me. I'm the real deal. I don't play games, flicks and chill. For real, baby, you the kind of girl I kinda like. No more trying to fuss or trying to fight. Got you smiling and the vibe is right. We gon' party till the morning light. Last call, now was trying to make moves. My place, did you trying to come through? Tell me what you won't do. Got you smiling and the vibe is right. We gon' party till the morning light. Got you smiling and the vibe is right. We gon' party till the morning light. Got you smiling and the vibe is right. We gon' party till the morning light. Got you smiling and the vibe is right. We gon' party till the morning light.
All right, so that was that
All
song.
right. All right. The crowd says, Chris Levi says, baptize me with that bass. Peter Fox says, Wingardium Levi, so good. Ruby, Sarah, Michael, we mentioned. Evan Whitted says, so good. Brandy K says, yes, this is a vibe. And yeah.
It is a vibe.
It is a vibe.
That is what I was going
And
for.
I missed Carter the first time. Hi, Carter. And we know that you're out there too. Yeah. So, Alex, do you have any questions for Eric?
Eric, what made you try a disco song?
Like I said, I was listening to music. I was listening to, I want to say it was just George Clinton Parliament Funkadelic, and I heard a disco song, and I was just like, I want to do that. That's normally how I do it, is like I'll listen to a song and go, I feel like I could do that, and then I'd like sit and just bang out something stupid until it turns out to sound like it. And it's mostly just to see or say that I could do it. And this one I thought turned out all right. But it was this is probably the third or fourth disco song that I made, but I hadn't made a dance song yet, and I really wanted to make one that was kind of outside of my element. Like I said, one is very like raw. It's still being mixed. There's some elements of it that are kind of missing, but so the as far as like the producing aspect of it, a lot of it is based on like, again, just listening to other songs, listening to other funk songs and stuff like that, and just kind of figuring out what elements they had. I know that they have like congos and stuff like that, or bongos. They have there's a walking bass line, there's a electric piano, there's regular piano, there's just all kinds of different things that like I knew that once I threw it in there, it's like it all just kind of fit. And then halfway through the song, I figured it got a little boring, and so I once it got boring, I decided to switch it up at this like weird little breakdown.
The style and the way they all sweat us. I'm talking to this girl that's making her friends jealous. Fellas.
So like I decided to kind of double time it. I made it like, rather than just that like I kind of double timed it to keep it a little more exciting. So that was another thing while I was listening to it. Like while you're making music, usually if you just listen to it over and over, it just kind of like turns into like you start to figure out what it needs and what it doesn't need. And this one, it got boring, so it needed, you know, a little breakdown right there.
All right. Well, yeah. Noah Reese is our director. Your camera went out for a little while there, but we did hear everything. Noah did also throw up the artwork on the feed, so the audience does get a chance to see your album cover.
Which God.
Is really cool.
So good.
So
yeah, I was gonna show
let's see.
Yes, that is going to be the artwork.
Ruby Santiago asked the question, what do you typically record first when creating your beats from scratch? And then Evan Whitted asks, who laid down that fat bass part?
So the normally I come up with the drums first. Like typically that's just the first thing that I like to do. Let me see. Let me play it for you. Let me see if it'll play. Oh, that's why. So typically I start with the drums. I thought that was kind of a hot little. So normally for bass, or for everyone does it differently. Some people like to start with chords. Some people like to start, you know, with the vocals. I like to start with the drums as like a skeleton, and then it kind of gives you something to build on from there. Then I think after I did the drums, I did the piano because I wanted some chords. I just needed something chordal to, you know, to like make everything else off of. And after that, I think I did like a synth bass line, And from then I had other people recording the piano. For the bass line, there's a friend of mine recorded the bass, and I went back and re-recorded the bass afterwards. So that is me kind of fiddling around on there back and forth. The piano was actually my sister's husband. Like I brought him in, and he everything else. So it was kind of a group effort. But that's typically where I start, though, is the drums, and then I build up from there. That's how a lot of people do it for the most part.
All right.
And,
What do we got
yeah.
next, guys?
Yes.
Okay, so this is probably is this the first like collaboration that we did?
Yes.
Okay, so a long time ago, and by a long time ago, maybe like 4 years ago, 5 years ago, 5 years ago, I wrote this song, and it's gone through like 1,000 different. I've rewritten the lyrics like 1,000 times. It's like the only song I've ever done this to as well. I just always felt like it wasn't finished or it wasn't going in the direction I wanted to, so I'd go back and hash at it. And right now it's called Let's Be Two. And so I started writing this song with a loop pedal, of all things, like what Fitzy does. And I just had this like little guitar loop pedal that I connected the mic to, and I was like, what would happen if I looped my voice doing this one pattern? And what if I added like 3 other vocals to that and see what happens? And it kind of sounded like this piano part, if I was like actually playing the piano. And so I just kind of sectioned that off and made it its own little piano part. And then I built like counter melodies to that. So I built 2 more counter melodies in there. And then I started writing like the verse. I started writing everything else that goes with it. I built more harmonies around it. I added effects to it. I added like a whole other section of vocals to it. And by the end of it, I think it has now like what, 30-ish vocal tracks to it. There's a lot, as you can.
All these right here are vocal tracks.
Okay.
So a lot.
Is that it?
1, 2, 3. Actually, no.
There's
no.
more.
I was wrong. There's more down here.
There.
Yeah.
There's
so
like a bunch that get
these.
looped together. So like a couple minutes ago. Yeah. A couple minutes ago we were talking about like building a vocal and then panning it and like having more to it. This is one of those that like got really crazy. And I was really happy with where it was at, but I really wanted something that would help like move it along. And I was like, Eric, I really want to collab on this. And what would happen if you wrote this beat to it? Because it's kind of weird. It's kind of dark. And he was like, let's do it. And we talked about like the kind of feel and the style, which is something like my last advice that I really have is when it comes to your music and producing it and turning it into something else, make sure that your voice is heard and you are loud and you are annoying, and that's okay because it's your music, and you don't want to end up regretting that later if the production turns into something that you really don't love or don't necessarily care for. You know, this is your stuff. So you know, we really were we have great communication, and we talked all the time about like what kind of ideas we could go for, what kind of feel. And I was like, obviously beats aren't really necessarily my realm, so I was like, Eric, you have full reign to do whatever, man, like just go for it.
And pretty much, so like, yeah, you sent me the vocals, and then from the vocals I made, I believe. So so I had to figure out what key it was in and what chords you were doing and what the tempo was. And then after all that, because typically this was actually an easy one, because normally what she does is she does really complicated stuff. So the first challenge is finding the tempo and finding the chords, and then figuring out from there, like, okay, I listened to, I want to say it was some Billie Eilish or something that was hot at the time. I could just like go and like compare it to what else could this sound like, and this is kind of what we threw together. If it'll play.
I'm holding every breath, choke back until I'm through, till my lungs are bloodied and my bones are bruised. But I'll manage to cough up a single name, 'cause all I can say is you. If you would say let's be two, you're not giving to you. If you would say let's be two, you're not giving to you. Could I have foreseen all this? Too wrapped up in fear to see. You were always so patient. Should I wait and let all be? Then, without warning, I was hurled into your oval screen, bringing me back to every thought of you. If you would say let's be two, you're not giving to you. If you would say let's be two, you're not giving to you.
So that's the whole thing. Could you hear the whole thing, or did it cut out at all? Did it cut out a little bit? Okay. Hopefully you got to hear most of it though.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. I mean, a few times.
It wasn't
but
bad.
not,
Okay.
No, I mean, is that streamable? Because I just posted your SoundCloud links for both of you.
Yeah.
Is that streamable out there?
Oh,
Like, is
no.
the song available yet?
Yeah. Yeah.
Not yet. I don't believe. Like
No.
that will be soon though. That's going to be the first one she's dropping.
All right.
Dropping.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's going to be one of the singles that I'll drop. We're just in the process at this point of like getting all the mixes right. The project itself is a 12-song album, and it's again, in terms of production, it's all over the place. I mean, I've got this track that's got, a billion vocals on it, but then I have tracks on there that it's just like voice and guitar. And it originally started as I really wanted this to be kind of this acoustic, broken down thing, and I wanted to call it the Bare Bones Project. And then, it kind of turned into this giant thing that has a lot of stuff on it. And I don't
It
think that's
happens.
I don't think that's a bad thing. It's still bare bones. I mean, I'm bringing all I got, so I'm really happy with like working with Eric has been great. You know, find your people, um, find people that really want to be a part of what you do. Find people that um, value you and value your opinion and you work well with. I cannot stress that enough. It seems like common sense, but you know, again, surrounding yourself with, like we mentioned, music that feeds you, you have to find other musicians that feed you as well and like keep you on your toes and only want what's best for you. And
If you
um,
wouldn't mess with them outside the studio, with them in the studio. That's a general
yeah,
rule because it just won't work. Like you can
yeah,
try to make it work, but I've just messed with enough people that I've just been like, yeah,
hmm,
no, like you're too sketchy of a dude. And yeah, if you just have that instinct of like, I wouldn't hang out with you outside of this, then it probably isn't going to work when you're trying to make something with them.
you know, these campers, hi campers, like this is such a great opportunity for you to meet other musicians who want the best for you and really want to grow. And like this is your opportunity to take that chance and say like, hey, I really want to do something, I don't know what that is, but I want to try to write something and I want to create something and see what this ends up being. And all it took was, you know, me pestering Eric, who's my excellent coworker, and just being like, hey, can you do something with this? And then, you know, now we're developing this huge project together. And you know, find that. It can be really easy, but it is kind of a scary step. So go
All
for it.
right. Speaking of our campers, let's let you guys open your mics if you have a question, and then yeah, open up the questions to our Tiffin Music Summer Camp participants. Anyone got one?
I just wanted to say that there's a new camper in the group.
Hey, new camper. Welcome.
Hello.
Hello, new camper.
Yeah, it's my friend Keegan.
Hi, Keegan.
Keegan.
Well, we'll meet more later once we're not live streaming to another audience. So
Yep.
welcome,
Mhm.
though.
What up, Keegan?
All right. Who else? We got any questions from our current campers? They're all scared.
No, we're happy to answer questions and help you along in the process. There are no stupid questions.
Okay, so I got a question for Eric. Do you want like what kind of productions you want to do in the future? Like, do you want to produce for like anyone, or do you want to like produce your own stuff, or
I'd say like, I mean, the money, you know, is producing for other people, right? Because I
yeah,
can't pay myself, but definitely would. I would love to produce for other people and then release my own stuff kind of like here and there. But for the most part, I would love to just, yeah, like collaborate with other people. And then, you know, just because like doing your own stuff like 100% is just so difficult. Like I'm not much of a writer. I really don't write very much like lyrics, so I'd much rather be able to produce for other people in the end. But like I said, the money is with other people will pay you to do it. So like also
right.
would rather do that.
Yes. And do you enjoy producing more or mixing more?
Ugh. See, I don't know. That's a really good question. So the producing is fun because it lets you be creative. It lets you just like, because what happens with me is my like I'll just have music just swirling in my head, especially if someone comes to me, like when Alex sends me a song, I'll hear the song and I'm like, oh, I need to put this out. So it's more of just kind of a compulsion of like, this needs to go. But then when it's mixing, it's more of the, you know, the anal part of it of just kind of like now we need to tinker kind of thing. So the producing side is kind of the fun creative part of it, and then the mixing part of it is a little more of the banging your head against the wall until it sounds good. So there, which is kind of fun in its own weird twisted way, but it's, I think honestly but then the producing part of it is like banging your head against the wall trying to get the ideas out. So they're both fun in their own ways, but I think honestly the producing's the more fun part for me.
Yeah, right. And do you master your tracks or send them to a mastering engineer?
I do have like an engineer that will master stuff for me, but I do master stuff, so I sometimes if like I don't feel like having him do it for me, I'll just do my own stuff, but like he's been doing it for years and years, so like sometimes it's easier. Like the some of the best advice I can give is everything when it comes to music, because it's either going to cost you in time or it's going to cost you in money. And honestly, like, money is always going to be, a thing when it comes down to it. So if you can learn how to do it yourself, because then you don't have to rely on somebody else to do it. Like, what if they mess it up? Or you don't have to sit and like go back and forth with them. Like, well, this master's so wrong for the 40th time. So then you
Yeah.
can just like learn to do it yourself. I do have a dude, but I'd rather just do it all myself.
Eric
Right.
Brown has done some mastering for us. So if anyone's looking for a mastering engineer, that is something else that Eric does. So
Cool.
all right. Any other
Yeah.
campers?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So I'm trying to get it more into beat making and everything and producing my own stuff. So like, how do you get your ideas onto your DAW? Because I usually get distracted with like how each instrument is supposed to sound. Like I'll open up like a kick or something and I'll be like, oh, that sounds awful. Can I please help this? Like it's the
So yeah, that is a good thing. That is a good point. Is one of the best ways to motivate yourself is by finding good sounds, or find it, like there are drum packs and stuff like that you can download. Like you can go to Google and just type in so and so drum packs or 808 drum packs or like just anything, and it'll just give you a bunch of professionally done drum packs or just sounds and loops and stuff like that you can go and do that. But you can definitely get lost in that, like trying to find the perfect sound. And typically what happens is if you get too lost in that, you lose motivation and you never want to do it. So sometimes what you have to do is just kind of like sometimes what I'll do is I'll put 10 minutes on the clock, and at the end of that 10 minutes I'm done, and you save and you move on to the next thing, and it forces you to commit. Like you have to, like, no matter what sounds I have, I'm dragging and dropping a sound and I'm going to make it work. And so sometimes you just have to like force yourself to figure out a way to make it work, even if it is like a terrible thing. Like sometimes you just have to figure out a way to make it work and then fix it later. But try not to get too wrapped up in the getting distracted part, like you said, because it happens. It really is an easy thing to just sit and just get really frustrated and then just never want to do it again. So yeah, just find dope sounds, and try to commit. Try to just like this sound, even as it sounds terrible, I'll fix it later. Just get it out of my head onto the computer, onto the next thing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, it's almost time to wrap it up. Anything you guys want to close with?
Go ahead, Alex.
It's all about trying new things. Just go for it. What's the worst that's going to happen? It doesn't work. That's great. Then you move on. Be sure to follow Eric at E Brown Makes Music. Is that right?
All my stuff, Instagram, Facebook, all that.
And then if you just look up my name, you can find that on Instagram or the Facebook. And as educators, like, we love hearing stuff. Like, if you have ideas and things like that, like I always tell my students, like, send me your stuff. I want to hear it. Like, let's take a listen to it. Let's figure this out. We're happy to help if we can. So I hope you guys have a great camp experience. I hope the streamers had a great streaming experience.
And we will be live again on Thursday night. I think we're going to do it just this way because I think this was pretty effective. This was the first time we've ever tried to combine Discord with live streaming, and it kind of works. So our camp is going to close with, instead of an actual concert, we will have a public performance or playing of some of the music that's been created this week. And our artists in residence, Priska and Brian Fitzy, will be performing for you as well. And we hope you can come back on Thursday night at 8 o'clock and right here at this same channel. And yeah. So, hey, Alex, Professor, Eric, Professor, thank you guys. You're awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
How about the whole camp unmute and give them a big round of applause?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. If you guys like, if you guys want to like have any questions, or if you want to send me stuff and like have me like check it out or anything, just ebrownmakesmusic@gmail.com. Like you can email me literally anytime, and I'll just like I said, just let me know how it sounds, or just like if you have any advice or anything like that, just seriously just hit me up anytime.
Yeah, reach out on Insta. That's fine. Reach out and we're happy to help.
You said at Gmail?
Yeah, ebrownmakesmusic@gmail.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks again, guys. This was a fantastic way to wrap up our first summer of Tiffin Music Tuesdays. And we appreciate all of the work you do on behalf of these students and our audience out there on YouTube. Thank you for visiting with us, and we'll see you guys again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Where are we going?
I think your groups.